Hey everyone and welcome back to VJS Corner. Tonight, we're diving into a personal story that took a dark and unexpected turn. It's a reminder that sometimes, the most ordinary places can become the stage for the extraordinary and the terrifying. This account comes from a young man named Zack, who was just trying to earn a bit of extra cash. Little did he know, his part-time job would lead him to a discovery that would haunt his waking hours. Let's hear Zack's story. 16-year-old Zack needed a job, a simple way to make some money. He landed a gig at a small, unassuming gas station. It wasn't on a busy highway, just a lone building on a quieter street. His hours were limited, only 20 a week, and the pace was usually slow. Most shifts involved more studying than serving customers. The gas station itself was compact. Four gas pumps stood out front, right by the roadside. Inside, it was even smaller. A single, somewhat grimy bathroom, one aisle stocked with snacks, a couple of humming fridges, and Zack's small counter area. There was a back room, but it was more of a cluttered storage space than a break room. And behind the building sat a large, green dumpster, accessible only by walking around the entire structure. The clientele was mostly transient, people passing through needing gas, a quick restroom stop, or a fast snack. Zack's town, Tattersall, wasn't exactly a tourist hotspot. The hot dogs perpetually rotating on the burner looked ancient, a fact Zack couldn't bring himself to share with the customers. His boss, a man driven by profit, turned a blind eye to the questionable quality of the goods. Months-old chips, those questionable hot dogs, drinks that seemed to defy the laws of science, they were all fair game for sale. Zack always felt a pang of guilt, a nervous knot in his stomach worrying about potential repercussions. But his boss's mantra was always the same: everything will be fine, and nobody will ever know. One particular evening, the silence at the gas station was almost deafening. Hours had passed with only a couple of cars stopping by. So, when a sleek, black Honda Civic finally pulled up to the pumps, it broke the monotony and caught Zack's attention. A couple emerged, seemingly in their late 20s. The man opened the back door and grabbed a backpack, while the woman began to fill their tank. Zack, engrossed in his pre-calculus homework, specifically, the trigonometry he so vehemently disliked, didn't think much of it. If they needed assistance, they could always come inside. The husband disappeared from Zack's view for a moment, but it didn't seem unusual. He went back to wrestling with sines and cosines. A few minutes later, the couple was back in their car and driving away. Zack briefly saw the man again, noticing the backpack was no longer in his hands. Lost in the complexities of trigonometry, he simply assumed the man had put it back in the car and he just missed it. Later that evening, as his shift neared its end, Zack offered to take out the trash. Hillary, the older woman with a chronic cigarette habit who was relieving him, readily agreed. Zack walked out the front door and around the side of the building, heading towards the dumpster in the back. The stench hit him before he even rounded the corner, a pungent, sickening smell that clung to the air. It was a large dumpster filled with who knew what, so a bad smell was almost expected. Heaving the heavy trash bag over his shoulder, he opened the dumpster lid and tossed it in. As he went to close the lid, something caught his eye. A backpack. The same black backpack the man from the Honda Civic had been carrying earlier. It looked wet. Not just damp, but soaked in places as if someone had spilled a significant amount of liquid inside. And it was slumped over in a strange, unnatural position, suggesting there was something substantial within. 16-year-old curiosity, that often ill-advised impulse, took over. Zack mistakenly opened the backpack. Inside was what Zack could only assume was a body. The colors were a disturbing mix of deep red and sickly pink, or at least he thought they were. The black inner lining of the backpack made it difficult to discern for certain. The smell was overwhelming, far worse than the nearby dumpster, a gut-wrenching, putrid odor. And then he saw it, chunks of what looked like meat and small, white, unidentifiable things sticking out at odd angles. It looked like roadkill, but wrong. Terribly wrong. Zack turned away, the meager contents of his stomach violently rejecting themselves. Tears welled in his eyes as the bile burned his throat. He stumbled back around the building, his body hitting the wall as he desperately tried to wipe the vomit from his chin. He lurched through the front doors, his distressed state immediately grabbing Hillary's attention. He choked out fragmented words, something about a body, and the overwhelming urge to vomit seized him again. Hillary, her eyes wide with alarm, grabbed the phone, her frantic voice filling the small space as she dialed 911. Zack stumbled past her into the single bathroom, collapsing onto the grimy floor, his body racked with dry heaves until the police arrived. The rest of the evening and night were a blur of flashing lights and hushed voices. When the police finally found Zack, he was still huddled on the disgusting bathroom floor, the horrific image seared into his mind. A female officer, her voice gentle and comforting, like a mother soothing a child after a nightmare, found him there. She sat beside him, offering a comforting embrace as the sounds of the investigation unfolded around them. Hours seemed to melt away, punctuated by the voices of officers and Hillary's occasional anxious tones. Zack's parents arrived, his mother's frantic hug a desperate attempt to shield him from the horror he had witnessed. He gave his statement to the officers, his father's presence a necessary buffer as he recounted the unimaginable. Days bled into weeks and weeks into months. But the smell, the sight, they remained a persistent, unwelcome guest in Zack's mind. He eventually confided in a few close friends, carefully omitting the most gruesome details, unable to fully articulate the horror he had witnessed. From what he later heard, the police investigation yielded nothing concrete. The body in the backpack was unrecognizable, its state so deteriorated that even determining it was human was a challenge. There were no answers, no DNA matches, no leads on the black Honda Civic. The case eventually went cold, another unsolved mystery swallowed by the silence of that lonely road. And Zack was left with the haunting image of what he found behind that small gas station, a terrifying secret carried in a discarded backpack. Zack's story is a stark reminder that darkness can touch even the most ordinary corners of our world. A simple job, a routine task, and then, this. What do you make of this chilling discovery? What could have happened to the person in that backpack? Share your theories and reactions in the comments below. If this story left you with a sense of unease, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to VJS Corner for more unsettling and thought-provoking content. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most horrifying things are found in the most unexpected places.